Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. In the last video we looked at hypothesis and how hypothesis as a package helps us to test edge cases that are otherwise difficult to notice when you are writing your code. In this tutorial I'm going to quickly set up Pytest. We are going to write some serializers and some views. Again, I'm going to assume that you have some basics of django-rest-framework, which is what we're going to test now going forward. So in the last video, let me just run Pytest just to make sure that all our tests are working before we proceed. Okay. I think we had one failing test. Let me see. Yeah, we have one failing test and this is a slugify. So remember this one, we made it so that it can fail. So I'm going to highlight it out so that we can continue. So for this, we need to install django-rest-framework. According to the documentation, we need to install django-rest-framework markdown support, but I'm not going to install Django filter. This is a bit more advanced. So pip install django-rest-framework as well as markdown. As that installs, just going to come here to the right. I'm just going to minimize that. So we want to write an API for this classroom module. So the way I like doing it is first of all creating a folder called API where all our logic is going to reside. Inside API we need 3 files technically. We need serializers.py. Ignore this. We need new file. We need views.py. Again, ignore that. And we need a urls.py like so. Again, I'm going to cancel that. So these are usually the basic files that we need to create that. And I want to create, initially let's do, I believe the student class here in the models is the most expansive. So we need to write a few serializers about it, and we also now need inside API. Let's first set it up, then we are going to write test about it. Okay. So first of all, what we are going to do, we are going to write a serializer. So here I can say class. Let's call it, just going to call it student, student serializer, and this inherits from something called a model serializer that we need to import. So it's usually from REST framework dot serializers, import model serializer like so. And serializers are usually the easiest one to make. So we can create what is called a class meta, and inside this we say the model, we want it to be the student model. Again, just follow along. You are going to see, for those who are new to Django-rest framework, student, I don't know why it's doing that. Okay, and we have our fields, and this one needs to be a tuple. So I can just come select this. Okay, there's usually a plugin here called Django fields, Django copy fields or something. Let me see, Django copy fields. Yes, so there's a package here called copy Django model fields that allows us to copy Django model fields and paste them as a tuple. So effectively what will happen is, now coming back after we install that, it makes life easier. I just select this and I say copy model fields. I come to serializers and I just, oops, it has happened. Okay, copy model fields. Just make sure this copies. Okay, I'm going first of all to save this and I paste model fields. Okay, I'm going to save. So this makes life easier instead of coming here and, you know, typing all of that. And our serializer, okay, we need to import students. So this is from classroom dot models import student. Okay, now we need to come to our views. We need to create a class. We can call it student list API view, and this one needs to inherit from list API view, and we need to import this from somewhere. Okay, like so, and let's try. I believe it's from REST framework dot generics. I hope it's here. List API view. Okay, it's there. So we need a serializer. We need a serializer class, and this we need to import. Need to import that. So I can say from dash serializers import that. We need a model class, or just model is equals to student. So from class from dot models import student. Okay, another thing we need is permissions. I don't know if we need to set them right now, but I think this is just enough for now. Another thing we need to do is set up our URLs. So what I'm going to do is, what I like doing is coming to the main urls.py file, just going to copy this as it is, going to paste it here, going to remove all these comments if they are necessary, and we need to say students, let's just say list for now, and we need to import this. Okay, so we say from dash views import that. So dot as view, and I think we need a namespace. Is it namespace or name? Namespace is equals, we can call it this student list API, and this namespace is quite important, and we are going to see the importance of it when we go to write the test. Of course, now we need to include, I think from here we need to import include. So I'm going to copy this, and I say path. I'm going to call it API, and I'm going to call it, and I'm going to say include. It's inside classroom .api. I believe so. One thing we need to do for this API is we need to add an init.py file, like so. Okay, ignore that, because here we are saying go to the classroom.api module, and for modules in Django or Python rather, we must have an init.py file. So let's see if everything works. So I'm going to come here and first of all pip freeze what we've installed into the requirements. I'm going to clear that, and I'm going to run my server. Again, here I'm using short form. please make sure you do python manage.py run server included. Okay, so it's include. So here it seems there's a slight error. Let me try to see where that error is. Okay, let's see. This error is here. I think this is name. Let's see if the error goes. It's called by a circular import. Okay, run server again. Okay, it's saying the included URL conf classroom.api does not appear to have any patterns in it. If you see in okay, so here it's showing us is the init.py file that is having the problems. Not sure why this is supposed to be an empty file. Let me just delete it for now, see if this issue is going to resolve, although it's supposed to be there. Okay, so it seems that the error is coming from these URLs classroom.api. So let me see how to resolve this. Oops, I think this one we need to point it not to the directory. I think we need to point it to the file, which is urls.py. I also don't know if we need, no, I think we just need to say .urls. Okay, let's see if this resolves. It's not classroom.api.urls. Okay, let's see. Okay, here we need to return the init__.py. Again, this happens all the time. I need to be preparing quite often. Okay, now let's see if it's going to accept. Classroom.api is not a package name. I'm just going to restart the server. Yes, and now everything is okay. So if we jump quickly to the browser, localhost 8000, and we go to, of course, there's nothing there, API/list. Student list API should either include a query set. Okay, so so here we come and say query set is equals to student.objects.all. Again, I like doing this step by step so that you guys can see the thought process. I don't like, okay, creating model serializer without either fields. Okay, we also need a fields attribute. So here I can just copy, and this is supposed to be fields, yeah. Okay, REST framework API.html does not exist. Okay, so I think this has something to do with we need to install REST framework in install apps. Again, I'm sorry, today I'm all over the place, but this is programming for you. So we can come here to settings, classroom, we can add that. I can also add that to our local settings, like so. We are going to add this later on for authentication. Actually, let's just add it now because I might forget, and this is supposed to be in the main urls.py file. So I need to save that. I need to close this. I'm going to open the main urls.py file. Let me just paste that in. And I also don't want to do these default permissions. I'm going to do that in the tutorial to come. So yeah, okay. So let's see if I need Python manage.py. I don't know if we need to migrate anything. Let's just do it for the sake of testing, make migrations. Okay. Okay, run server now. And so I'm going to come back here, I'm going to refresh this, and now everything works. So here we are querying data that we've already saved. Remember, in our database we had already saved, I'm going to go to the admin, we had already saved login, we had already saved one student when we were doing testing for the emoji thing in the previous video. So actually for this, let me just write here Geoffrey. I'm going to save. Okay, I'm also going to put an average score of 78 just because why not. Okay, and I'm going also to say it's qualified. So now if we come here and refresh, oops, now we need to have this. So at least now our student list API is working. But how now do we do the testing? Of course, we can never, it's not good to always come to the dashboard to test or to use Postman, which I'm going to introduce in a couple of videos from now, so that you can just do testing. It's very tedious. So one of the way we can automate this is through testing. So as always, this part will be a bit now short. Inside the API, since we want to test all three of these files, what I like doing is I'm going to create a new folder. I'm going to call it tests. And inside this, remember we must name our Python file starting with test underscore. We must always start with that or end with test. And this is, we declared this in the pytest.ini file. So now we want to test our views. We are going to start with the views, then we test the serializers. Because I usually feel if you understand how to test the views, which are a bit more complex, then testing serializers becomes quite easy. So I'm going to say test views.py. I'm going to disable this in the next video. I'm going to close this. Okay. Okay, so actually to make this more readable, I'm going to say this is student forward list, like so that at least we know when this is a student list or when we create the other list. So of course we import Pytest. We write a class. We're going to say test student APIViews, and this one we can inherit test case for reasons I'm going to show you. So, and let's define a function. We are going to say test student list works. This must always take self. So one of the things we need to do here, actually what I'm going to do, I'm going to remove this. Let me just remove test case. Let's just go with a pure Pytest class. And so what we need to do here is, one, we need to create a student, and we've done this numerous times in the previous video. Then what we need to do is to call the URL. Remember, when we were testing the models, we were creating the student, then we are querying the data from the query set. Maybe we are saying student.objects.all, but now since we are testing the view, which is connected directly to the URL, we call the URL in a reverse call and see if you are going to get the data. So it's, think of it as if we are going to hit this URL. Where is it? We are going now to hit this URL, and now it has changed to student. We are going to call this URL, reverse that call. Then there's something happening here. Name URL is not defined. Okay, so it's for this. This is this new URL we have added here, and I believe this one is usually, it has been changed to repath. What repath means is regular expression path. This is the old school way of writing Let's see if this one will work. It works. Okay, so we are going to reverse call this so that we can be able to get this, and we are going to do our assertion. So let me close all of this so that we remain with the test that we want. So after that we are going to do the assertions. Okay, so let's create a student. So we can easily create a student by using mixer. So I'm going to import mixer, and we said is from, actually I can just copy it quickly. Where is the previous test? I need to remember. Yeah, we need all of these actually. We also need this. Okay, so I'm just going to copy that. I'm going to paste all of that here. We don't need the classroom for now. So to create a student, I can say student is equals to mixer.blend. Then we are going to pass in the class. Actually, that's all. I don't even need, or we can just say first name. Let's say first name is equals to, we are going to say Geoffrey, like so. Okay, then we need to call the URL, and now this is where now the trick is. To call the URL, we need to use something which is called the API client. And how do we create the API client? So the easiest way to do that is, first of all, I need to pass in the test case here. We need to do it in the setup method. So we say def setup, and we've done this in the previous video. And this needs to be taken self. And here we need to have something called API client. So we are going to say from REST framework, yeah, dot test. We need to import API client. So also REST framework comes with its own test submodule. So I'm going to copy that, and I'm going to say self.client is equals to API client. We initialize an API client. Again, you can call this whatever you want. You can call it self.myClient or self.myAPICaller. We need to import test cases here. So this is usually from django.test import. Oops, what am I typing? Import test case. Okay, like so. Everything is okay. So self.client is there, and we can actually, let me try to print this so we can see what it is. Self.client. Okay, I'm going to say this is self.client so that we know. Okay, that is done. So another thing, we can actually decide to take this up here, but for now let it just remain there. So the way we call the URL, just a second, we come here and say, we can call it feedback or response. Let's call it response. Again, you can call it whatever you want. We can say self.client, and we can see that we need to pass in a few things. No, we need to pass in one more thing. Self.client dot get, exactly, get, and this one is telling us we need to pass in the path. And the path we want, we can pass in the entire URL, or we can pass in a relative route, which is API student, then I believe is list, like so. So we can pass it like that. Then I'm going to print this so that we can see what it is. Response. I'm going to say response. then I want this test to fail so that we can see what we've printed. So I can say assert false. Of course, when you assert false, it's going to fail. Okay, so I'm going to run Pytest. Let's see what we get here. Okay, so of course asserting false always fails, but I'm interested to see. So here I have received a response and it's saying is a HTTP response. Status code is 301. We also have a self.client. Okay, so this is not so much helpful, but usually in the response I can type, whenever in Python you type dir or directory, it's going to type in all the values that fall under this response because it's an object. So let's see what they are. Okay, so we see in the response we have whiskey request, we have write lines, we have templates, you have URL, we have status code. This is very, very important and we are going to be testing it quite a lot. We have headers, we have request, we have JSON. This is again very, very important. So for this test, the common one we are going to do is asserting. We need to do assertions, and one of the assertions will always be the JSON response. The next will sometimes we can test the headers, but an important one we can be testing the status code. So for now we are going just to test these two. Another thing that we might need is headers. We are going to do that down the line, and cookies as well, amongst other things. So for now let's test these two things. So I want to assert that my response.json is not null. So basically this, actually that's JavaScript in Python is none. So I want to test that my response.json is not empty. Okay, so this needs to be 1. Okay, I also need to assert that the response dot status code is equals to 200, and we are going to set up status codes in the next videos down the line. So let's see if these two work. Okay, okay, so we have one failing. It's given us a status code of 301 instead of a 200. So a 301 usually means is a redirect, if I'm not wrong. Status 301. Moved permanently. Let's see, maybe my URL is wrong. Actually, I'm going to copy this. API student list. Okay, API student list. Or maybe it's a trailing. Maybe I need this trailing. I need this trailing slash. Let's see if that is going to fix it. Yes, and now we have a passing test. Again, usually with Python, with Django, it's very sensitive with this trailing slash. But there's one more way that we can be able to do this before I wind up the video that can make it easier. Usually it's not advisable to write your URLs like this. So we need to say URL here is equals to, there's a function called reverse that is provided by REST framework and also Django, and we need to reverse. Remember when I said that in our urls.py we said that, let me just push this on the side, we said that this name is very important. So this is what we use to reverse. So whenever we reverse this name, we get this URL, and the advantage of this means that whenever we change the path, it will never affect the tests. So we say we want to reverse this, and we need to import reverse. So I believe is from REST framework dot URLs, I hope, import reverse. It seems it's not there. So from REST framework dot reverse, import reverse. Okay, and now if we print this, if we print the URL and we say here the URL, I'm going to, this is okay, this is okay, I'm going to cancel that for now. Okay, oh, this is not going to do anything because it's not going to fail, but I wanted to show you, what this URL will be, so I've made it to fail for the purposes of just logging it on the side. Okay, so and here if we print the URL, where is that? You'll see that it's going to replicate back what we had coded here. So this URL, let me just copy it. The result we've gotten here is API students list. So here, instead of passing this string, we pass in URL. And so what this means is that your URL will always be dynamic, and that means even if your URL here changes, this test will never change, because the important part is not what the URL is what it brings back. So here we've tested this. If you are sure about the student you've created, you can even go ahead and actually test. Maybe we can say assert, maybe we can say response.json, and we can say, we can measure that, because the response here we are getting, if from here we get it in a JSON format. So one of the things you can do, because this is an array, maybe we can even do .length. Actually, it's response.json .length. I don't know if this is the way we can say it's supposed to be greater than 0, because we must at least have 1. And here we can even create 2 students. Actually, let's create 2 students. We say student 2, and we are going to say the name is Naomi, for example. We can try to see if this is equals to, the length is going to be 1. I don't know if this is how we measure the length of an array. Let me just check. Or size of an array. Again, these are programming things that you have to okay, so it seems is len. Okay, so if we do length of that, let's see what we are going to get. And can I run this test from here? No. Okay. Yeah, the length is 2 because we've created 2 students. Yeah. Okay. So that's why it's putting this assertion. So yeah, so this comes to the end of our video. But again, here you can test many things. For example, you can test the order in which they come, and you can say maybe response.json, then perhaps you check the first object, and then you say, for example, .name, and you expect that to be Geoffrey. So you can do this, all these things, to do your own custom testing. But basically, these are the important ones, and this is what we'll be replicating quite a lot. So one of the things we can do now here, instead of student and student 2, we can push this to the setup method, but again we can decide to do that in the next video. So I believe for now everything seems okay. I'm going to push this code to GitHub, and again, actually let me just do that right now. Again, if you're finding me for the first time, Please make sure to subscribe to my channel. Check out the previous videos in this tutorial series. In the next video, we are going to do a quick short video about create API view. Here we've only done for list where is the views. Here we've only done for list API view. We are going to do create API views, we are going to do delete API views and do the testing for that, and after that then we are going to dive in how we test our serializers as well as how we test our URLs. Please follow me on my social media profiles, subscribe and comment below, and I'll get to your questions. Please follow all the content on my website, and the link is in the description below, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Bye.